About a year ago, when the Celtics originally signed Kemba Walker, I made a video titled "Why Kemba Walker on the Boston Celtics Makes No Sense." And throughout the entire year, that entire comment section was filled with, "You were wrong because the Celtics have this, and this record, and they're this place in the Eastern Conference." Well, now just a year later, everybody is bashing Kemba Walker on Twitter after a game against the Los Angeles Lakers in which he only recorded 4 points, shooting 1 of 12 from the field and 0 of 5 from behind the arc. And to make matters worse, his season averages are abysmal, as he's currently averaging 14 points, 3 rebounds and 4 assists, shooting 37% from the field, 29% from behind the arc, and 86% from the free throw line. So that starts to beg the question, how did we get here? From a point that people like me were criticized for criticizing the signing of Kemba Walker, to the point where now people, including the Boston Celtics fans, are demanding for Danny Ainge in the front office to trade him immediately. But before we get started with this video, if you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure you push that subscribe button and the bell for post notifications. Also, make sure you drop a like if you enjoyed this video, as it helps me out with the algorithm. You guys have been showing immense support on this channel and I appreciate everything you guys have done. And without further ado, let me hop back into my bag. When Kemba Walker initially signed with the Boston Celtics, it was a move that I found puzzling because the Celtics had money for a max contract player, and though they did lose Kyrie Irving in free agency, we all still knew they had a fairly competent roster. They had Gordon Hayward, who was coming off of a career-threatening injury and had another year on his belt, and as we saw last season, he went back to the Gordon Hayward of old. They also had Marcus Smart off the bench, who is one of the best defensive players in the league. But the main pieces were Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. As if you went back and watched that video, I clearly stated that I believed that the best option for them was to just build around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They've been promising both of them that they are the future of their organization, but yet they consistently keep putting trust in other people to lead their organization. Guys like Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, and then to pay Kemba Walker a max contract when, despite all his great years in Charlotte putting up great numbers, he was never even able to get out of the first round and only made the playoffs twice. He was never worth a max contract from the very beginning, and Michael Jordan knew that, and he refused to pay him due to that reason. But because Danny Ainge was so desperate, he saw the removal of Kyrie Irving on the roster and still felt that he needed to add more star talent to the team, so he goes out there and signs Kemba Walker to a max contract that he never should have gave him in the first place. They had all that money and they could have used it on a defensive big or pieces to come off the bench, because those were needs that they had way more than just signing a point guard. You already have Marcus Smart, who though is inconsistent, he's still somewhat of a decent playmaker and can give you far more than what Kemba gives you as far as the defensive side of the ball. And when the playoffs came, it was very obvious that Kemba Walker, his inefficiencies on that defensive side of the ball were a huge weakness for the Boston Celtics, because I don't think a lot of people understand just how much of a knock it was against the Celtics that they weren't able to make the finals, because year after year they're more than likely going to have to go through the Bucks to get to the finals. And now with the addition of James Harden to the Nets, they also have to go through them as well. But the reason that I believe that last year was such a big L for them is because we all know the playoffs are about matchups, and the Celtics don't match up well with a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference. You have teams like the Philadelphia 76ers, who have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, that can abuse them due to their lack of size. And then you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis goes Wilt Chamberlain every single time that they face each other, whether in the regular season or in the playoffs. And then you go to a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who though don't have some big that's going to dominate them in the post, they don't have an answer for a guy like Kevin Durant, and outside of KD, they're just going to out-talent them with Kyrie Irving and James Harden. So that's why I say last year was such a missed opportunity, because they barely escaped the Toronto Raptors in a 7-game series, and because the Bucks got knocked off by the Miami Heat, the path for them to make the NBA Finals was right there for the taking. As though the Miami Heat were a great defensive team, it's not like they have a lot of size to their advantage. But as we saw in the postseason last year, Kemba Walker was abused time in and time out on the defensive side of the ball, as the Heat would try to get the switches that they needed to put Kemba Walker on the opposing ball handler. And not only that, then you have to deal with Bam Adebayo abusing Daniel Tice in the paint. So now when you factor all of that in, no wonder they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals. Instead of just using that money to surround Tatum and Brown with role players and needs on their roster and filling out the rest of their team, they went out and signed a point guard who in the second round and the conference finals, he averaged 18 points, 6 assists, but shot 42% from the field and a mere 31% from behind the arc on nearly 8 attempts per contest. That is abysmal, and Kemba Walker is far more capable than that. And to make matters worse, when the offseason hit, apparently Danny Ainge was trying to shop Kemba Walker to anybody that would pick up the phone. And nobody wanted him, not because he's trash like a lot of people on Twitter will tell you, but because of the fact that his contract is far more than what he's worth, especially coming off of a terrible postseason performance. And all of that leads to where we are today, because with Jason Tatum having another great season, along with Jaylen Brown looking like he's having another breakout year, it really begs the question, what are they going to do with Kemba Walker? Because on one hand, you can say that they should just inflate his stats and run the offense through him so they can get his trade value up, but on the other hand, you're also halting the progression of a guy like Jaylen Brown when you see that he's having a great year and you want him to consistently get better on the offensive side of the ball and not halt that by taking away touches from him. And then you also have to consider that, are you just sacrificing wins for the sake of moving a player that you committed so much money to, and then once you move him, you damage your reputation throughout the entire NBA? Because it's not like Danny Ainge already has a great reputation when it comes to being loyal to his stars. You're just going to make that far worse and continue to hurt your chances of getting major free agents in the offseason. Because let's not forget that Anthony Davis's father, I believe, came out and said he doesn't want Anthony Davis to sign with the Celtics because of how they did Isaiah Thomas. So as far as I'm concerned, unless Kemba just comes out and blatantly says he wants to be traded, I don't know what the Celtics are going to do with Kemba. Because if you move him, like I said earlier, it hurts your image and your reputation around the league. But if you don't, you run the risk of the exact same scenario happening next year in the postseason, and instead of getting to the conference finals, you may be a second round out, and heaven forbid, a first round exit. But you guys let me know your opinions down below in the comment section. I would love to know what you guys think down there. Also, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and push the bell for post notifications. And if you guys enjoyed this video in particular, make sure you drop a like. Let's try to get to at least 1,000 likes. I know you guys can do it. But without further ado, y'all stay safe and have a great day. I'm out. Peace.